Always being the biggest one, you're seen as the biggest target. So it in itself, you already have an X on your head in a way, and confidence was the furthest thing that I had. Vulnerability is still a process for everybody.
Very true. Ooh, you already dropping bars,
Hey,
Nick.
you gotta come out strong.
Right?
You gotta come out strong.
Today we're going to be speaking about losing 180 pounds in 9 months. The reason why I asked Nick to be a part of the Parkour conversation is because when we initially had spoken for the first time and he told me his story, like, yeah, when I tell you my mouth dropped, like I was like, ugh, like, shut up, bro. Like that's not real. Like you're not telling the truth. And I just think it's, a powerful story because someone out there has gone through something similar or might be needing to go through something like this and doesn't know how to navigate it through. So tell them a little bit about yourself and tell us the journey to I'm gonna just break the ice. This man sitting right here beside me was 360 pounds. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it.
Me, I still don't believe it. I still sometimes just try and fathom it myself. Like sometimes when I look in the mirror and I look at old pictures, I think back in my mind, I reminisce about just the whole pathway, like crazy. From 360 to 180 in 9 months. And well, before I continue, I'm a Vern baby.
Vern baby, Scarborough East Side.
I grew up in cross tracks for those of you who are not geographically sound with the area. Growing up in Vern, you see a lot from geographical, demographical, ethnicity, diversity, division, separatism, like a lot of different things. Yeah. And I think it's like a collaboration that brought me to that weight of 360 because everything, you either lose weight over a period of time or you gain it. So it was a lot of things that I went through from 9, 10 years old, from seeing death from young, not being able to really categorize how I felt because, again, growing up in our ethnicity, our culture, we're not really taught how to talk.
Tell them, what's your ethnicity? What's your culture?
Trini, Indian, Portuguese, and Venezuelan. So that already, growing up, I'm 91, born in 91. So no fault of our teachers, our co-creators, but speaking and having exchanges about vulnerability and intangible currency, as I call it, like that's not something that we're taught. And it's not a deficiency to our parents. It's just what wasn't taught is what wasn't taught to us. And it got to a point where I developed a lot of issues in school, like depression, becoming suicidal. I was bullied a lot. Again, always being the biggest one, you're seen as the biggest target. So it in itself, you already have an X on your head in a way, and confidence was the furthest thing that I had. Right. I used to hear a lot of people talk to me about I'm this and I'm that, but I couldn't really resonate or reflect with it. Because when I would look in the mirror and when the other stuff I would hear around me, it used to drown out the positivity that was around me. And I started to believe the lies people used to feed me. And it got to the point where, high school, I used to call my high school years, it was 4 to life. Because some days it really felt like a life sentence. I mean, from the things a lot of people took trivial, like just going into the caf, eating with people, wow. I mean, I remember still eating in, like where our stage crew room was, I went to MT. Shout out everybody from MT. I don't care where you call, MT is BMT. There was our stage crew room used to overlook, there was like a washroom and it used to overlook the atrium. And that was one of the low-key washrooms that was unlocked, but not a lot of people travel by it. That became like my lunchroom because nobody used to go. Yeah, because I needed a safe place. For me, it was like I needed some place to decompress while I still had period 3 and 4 to complete because we had semester courses, right? And it was like growing up, seeing a lot of things that I didn't really know how to process overall because things didn't seem right, but it was almost like you're just supposed to take it and be strong. Again, as a male, testosterone is supposed to suppress a lot. That's what we're taught. Again, it's unlearning a lot and relearning a different code. And that took time. It took process, progression, as we talked about before, like I didn't really look at myself as worthy of anything. And again, I bought into a lot of the lies. So I started to feed myself with the negativity. And that in itself blew me up like a blimp west to east. You see? And it was one thing to the next.
Eating,
one thing to the next.
Eating was...
Food, binge eating. And because I used to look at food as it was a safe place. It didn't judge. It always made me feel good in the moment and even the moments to come. and it wasn't something that would talk back. So I didn't really have to put on a different face to, right?
Wow, that's deep.
So when you look at food, like that's why I get when people say, I don't know how to stop eating, because it can become a comfort, like in a lot of ways. And again, we find comfort in things that make us feel good. And that's just a human trait. Because again, we're spiritual beings experiencing a human experience. So
do y'all see why I brought this man onto the show? Because
it came to the point where I had to really look at myself in the mirror, and my body was starting to speak treble, and it was bringing bass too. So when we don't listen to the body is gonna bring a different voice.
Right.
And if we stifle it, then it's gonna show us what's gonna happen.
I'm so sorry that I wasn't in your high school to eat lunch with you in the I wouldn't have let you eat food in the washroom, but like that's actually like, it's sad to say, because there are probably a lot of people out there that experience the same thing. Like they just don't feel comfortable. They're being bullied at school. They have to find safe places. And like you said, food was a safe thing. It never talked back and never like talked shit about you.
Right.
And it made you feel good. So
Exactly.
that's definitely an escape. So, especially, Caribbean culture, you were eating some stuff too, right?
But that was the thing. Like, I mean, at school, it was always the stuff from the microwave, because there was really no time to sit down and eat roti, curry goat, and stuff like that. But same way at home, like, it was, again, the culture, as I said, all my cultural aspects, all of the, the traditional stuff that we eat. Right. So, but in school, it was very different. I just wanted to be able to be like a part of the culture of school. I went into the caf one time and I bought fries, and I started eating the fries. I was sitting in the caf, and like when those ones where you hear people talking and you could see their eyes, you could feel the eyes, but you're not watching them in the eye, but you could feel the presence of them on you. That was the first and the last day I went to the caf. I'm like, this is not a place. I didn't feel like there was a place for inclusion. Right. But the thing was, too, and this is where we get back to vulnerability, I didn't tell a lot of people what I was going through. Like, some of the same people that used to bully me used to par with some of my dudes that were okay, and I was like, when they started to find out later down the road, they actually got upset with me, because they said, bro, we could have kept you from going through certain experiences, but that's what life is about, right? You get trial, you get tested. It's how you rise or you triumph. But that's why, again, now I speak so much, because I feel, again, within our community, we don't have enough male voices to speak about speaking is okay. Crying is the next thing. I cried a lot, and I suffered a lot of that with anger. So when I would cry, I would break stuff too, because I felt like I was getting weaker as a male, because I would cry about things that affected me, but I didn't know how to convey it to nobody. And that was something I carried with a lot of my years up until about 22, 23. And that in itself it alienated me even more, because I felt like, okay, well, in elementary school too, I used to actually eat away from the rest of the children, not because of anything else, but just due to my allergy, right? Because I used to have a deathly allergic reaction to peanuts and everything else. So and that kind of like graduated with me into high school.
You were always isolated when it came to food.
And I thought high school was going to give me some like liberation, but there was more of a suffocation, right? So graduating from MT was probably one of my greatest accomplishments, because I was able to like get out of that fort to life.
I especially wanted to talk about this is because brand new year, 2022, a lot of people in the beginning of the year are always, really big on fitness, which is amazing. Like 100%. You can't knock nobody for trying to like, get a new fresh start. Especially when we talk about health, especially in North America, there is a lot of, I guess we call it obesity in a way, because
it's rampant. It's rampant.
Right. And I just also want to like put it out there that, for people who are bullying you, for example, in high school, not everyone who is, bigger in size is just big in size because of like negligence, or because like they have like a terrible diet and they just don't care about themselves. Like there's other underlying health issues that people experience, thyroid issues. Just different things, that relate to it. So don't just assume that if someone is bigger in size that they are choosing that for themselves, right? So walk us through, what does 360 pounds feel like?
It feels like living dead. You operate within the functionality of your being, but you know that there's a bigger process to being your being. And like certain things I was able to experience for the first time after the weight loss, like something so trivial, feeling my rib cage, going into a store and not buying due to the size available, but just buying what I wanted. Because I experienced that a lot, going into the store and wanting to buy something, but my buy-in was XL. And a lot of the brands back in the day, they weren't like, you might find a 1-2, but it wasn't as much as now where I could get medium and large like that.
Right.
And again, it's just the way times have changed. But certain things, just walking up steps without feeling winded. That's why when I was going through the process, I used to run up steps with a passion. And people used to ask me like, why do I do it so much? I said, because I used to go up maybe 6-10 stairs and I would be winded just trying to walk. And this is why I always tell people training is, don't take it for granted. It's not a right, it's a privilege. It's a privilege. And even if you don't have your 100% on that given day, give your 100 effort. Because
Y'all heard that? If
like
you're in the gym?
every day,
Yeah.
every day. And the body shaming thing, I can't deal with it. Hurt people. So a lot of people, like, if I punch you or somebody punches you and you don't know how to heal from that, you're dealing with pain. And we sometimes, I think subconsciously, sometimes consciously too, we try and transfer that pain onto somebody else to alleviate ourselves. Right. And ultimately, that's like trying to put a gauze on a bullet wound. You got to extract the bullet or you're going to get infected. And the more and more we continue with that infectious, toxic reciprocation of behavior, it continues and it transcends into the younger generation, those around us. And that's toxic. It's a toxic trait. So I started to, that's what enabled me to forgive a lot of people. Because again, forgiveness is not for them, it's for yourself. Right? And I was dealing with a lot of skeletons that I put in myself because of that. And I had to really come to terms with, I needed to forgive those people I probably would never get an apology from. Because I couldn't walk with the weight that they gave to me, that I knowingly in some ways, but unknowingly I took it on.
So in a way,
exfoliated.
In the way, like the weight was like in your mind first.
Yeah, the mental weight, again, like it's got to be spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, financially. And again, we wash whips from the top down, not up, right? So it's the same thing. My mental was skewed. And until I got my mental 180 degrees as a straight line, then that's when I started to see clearer. Right. And again, third eye calcification, which we'll get into just now, but my third eye was so cloudy. Same with the mucus membrane in my body. That's why I was so sick. Right. You know, and
tell them about the heart stuff. Like that was a kicker for me when you told me about the heart stuff. And I'm just like, I look back at it, I'm like, he's born in 92. Like, you're 2 years older than me. And
91.
Oh, 91. 3 years older than me.
Yeah.
And you've gone through that? Like, tell them about that. Because that's how severe it can get. Yeah. Right?
Again, I was so sick that I knew I wasn't well, but I couldn't look inside of me. And it wasn't until, 2023, I used to smoke grabba with a passion. And I got hooked onto nicotine tobacco.
Stop being so loud for the grabba smokers. Stop being so loud for us. Okay?
I just knew, you already know, no judgment. Right. But for me, my body was starting to speak to me. And it was in that parking lot at Nielsen and Ellesmere. I was with my dad waiting for mom to come on the 95. I looked at him and I told him I need to start making changes. Like, I didn't know how I was going to do it. And it all started from that day in 2014. And it basically took me to the doctor, getting my blood ran, going back to see him. And he knew I was a factual guy. He gave me the facts in front of me. I couldn't deny the truth anymore. And he basically told me if I didn't make changes, I would basically die by 27. And again, I took that very personally. I took it pretty much as a death threat. And I said, okay. He looked at me back in my eye after he filled out the prescriptions because I had type 2 diabetes too. And that's what really got me because my grandparents passed from diabetes and cancer. So it was like, okay,
you're basically telling me I'm gonna dead. Yeah. And I don't like that.
Right. I'm gonna take that and we're gonna figure something out. So he looked at me and he's like, you don't look convinced. And I said, I'm convinced of what you're telling me, but I'm not convinced of how you want me to do it.
Right.
And from that point, I immediately, that next day, I stopped smoking. And
cold turkey?
Yeah. And that is what ignited everything. Because those 2 months after that, I went through a lot of, it was almost like I was going through a mourning process because I was so attached to it. Like, it's almost like losing a loved one. Like when you feel that void and you're trying to figure out, how do I process this? How do I grow through it? How do I grieve? Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it was funny because I'm like, how can a substance without a pulse be holding me like this? But it was because, again, just like the food, I placed so much into it. I didn't realize how much dividends was within it. And I'm like, okay, now I got to try and figure out how to live on without this. And it took me a total of 8 months to really just cleanse my body.
What did that look like? Bring us through that. Like, what did
Well,
9 months of cleansing your body? What did that look like?
Some days I felt like I was running up the wall. Like I was suicidal too. I was depressed because I didn't even know who I was looking back in the mirror, because I was looking at myself and thinking like, this person, I don't know who this is anymore. Cold sweats. I was going sleep paralysis. I fainted a few times. Which leads me to this one day. I was in my parents' room, lying on the bed, and then my dad is there, and I went through my first heart attack. And it's crazy when people say like you feel somebody just holding your chest and squeezing it. And it's just, I held his hand and I'm gripping it and I'm giving him my phones, and I said, go to everybody in this phone and tell them, I appreciate everything they did for me. I fought as long as I could. I loved them, but like I feel like this is my time, and I can't fight it. Like I could barely move.
How old were you at that time?
I was within 23 going on 24. So
to have a heart attack?
And it was back-to-back days. That's the crazy thing. Like, I had no idea or ever envisioned myself going through that. For it to happen back-to-back, like, I doubled up on that. And it really shook me in a different way. So we fast forward to my 24th birthday. And at that point, again, throughout that whole year from that point, I was still eating what I was still eating. I just needed to eradicate the addiction to the tobacco and the nicotine first before I could even tackle the weight. So
one step at a time.
Right.
One step at a time.
Right.
Take time.
Right.
Be patient. Okay.
You can't expedite success.
All right. So
you gotta go.
Nicotine?
You gotta go organically. So got up to my 24th, and from August to November, I started to educate myself on my biochemistry, like what I needed to start doing to feed my cellular structure and not placate my palate. And that's what I was doing up until that point. And this is why a lot of people say like diseases are hereditary. No. Diseases are not hereditary, because 500 years ago, we didn't have all these complications. What's hereditary is the eating habits. That is what is hereditary. And it's easier to do what's been done for years on years instead of becoming a pioneer and saying, I'm going to walk this road and I'm going to figure out how to make a different way. It's not to throw shade at nobody behind. It's just like, I need to find a different route to a new destination, hustle code. So I started to educate myself, and it was a eye-opening event, because I realized I was eating pretty much everything was acidic. And this is where I started to come into line with Alkalinity, Dr. Sebi, Dick Gregory. And this is where I started to realize, like, this is gonna be a ride. You gotta
let go of the roti and the doubles and them things. Let go of it.
We're talking about the culture, right? And I'm not like, I almost felt like I was committing treason in a way, because I was like, how am I not gonna embody who I am?
Right.
But again, there's many ways of doing the same thing. And I started to just think to myself, you know what? I'm tired of feeling this way. This is gonna be scary, but I gotta make this jump. So, and see, what happened was, in the time of getting rid of the addiction to the tobacco, I was eating more. Because I was trying
to shake one.
Right. I was like, okay, I'm losing this, so let me compensate on this side.
Yeah, but take time, you got there.
Right.
Then you got yourself to the gym.
Right. So I told myself, okay, November, I started to mentally prep myself. Something my dad taught me from young is, before we do a lift, you always envision yourself before you lift. Because what that does is it mentally prepares you for the exertion of your body.
I like that. I'm going to start using that in the gym.
100%.
I'm going to be like, oh, girl, you look good up there. Lift. I go, okay, cool.
Exactly. No, but it might sound funny, but it really does help. So I started doing that for the 4 weeks of November. When I hit December, I looked at the scale. I'm like, okay, I wanted to be 180 by the time I hit 25. I calculated it. I'm like, 180, 9 months, 20 pounds a month, 5 pounds a week. Bro, I calculated the caloric deficit. I'm like, how in the everything is this gonna happen? But I wanted 180. I wanted that effing 180. And I said, I'm not gonna stop. This kills me. At least I went out doing this. And the first time I was on the treadmill, it was 10 minutes, 2.5 was the speed. And less than halfway in, I literally could not breathe. And that moment, I told myself, if I die now, at least it's on the belt of a treadmill and not on the seat of the couch that I was so comforted in. I'm in a state of discomfort,
Love that
but you
for
see,
you.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I started
Those discomfort, like that discomfort, uncomfortable moments are gonna shake you and put you in a new place. Mm-hmm.
That's what chisels us, because
Real
diamonds
talk.
are created under pressure, right? The VVS don't get it shine without pressure, and you can't
Bars.
chisel the piece of wood without pressure, right?
Bars.
So it came down to like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. And from December, I locked in like I never did before. It was just get up, grind,
Like,
rest,
you mean grind going to gym or working on your house, running?
At the gym, at the crib, outside, and I was still on road doing whatever. But same way, like my priority was training at least 3 times a day.
3 times a day, mercy.
Like, again, and a lot of people used to ask me like, bro, isn't that a bit extreme? And I said, I started in an extreme place. Like I have an extreme situation, so I gotta apply extreme pressure. Like I couldn't do anything less or I wouldn't have attained my goal.
Heard you.
And it was just day after day after day. I just kept pushing. I could not let off until I got there. Fast forward to August 6th, I step on the scale and the thing didn't register at first for whatever reason. So I kicked it and I went back on it and it said 178.5.
Wow. I'm so
never,
proud of you.
When I tell you, I never cried in that moment the way I cried in that moment, in any moment in my life. Because I said I didn't just attain my goal, I went 1.5 pounds underneath.
Wow.
Like, what's impossible? Right? Okay.
I love that.
What's impossible? Right? They just forgot the apostrophe.
Okay, Nick, a lot of people in the world are on the heavier side, right? And if someone is watching this and they're, they want to shred some weight, obviously that's a drastic 180 pounds in 9 months. Like you said, 20 pounds a month, 5 pounds a week.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
How could you what would you say to someone who's going through that and you're like, how do they mentally lock in? Like what happens when they feel the same thing when you're on the treadmill and you're like, I'm about to die, but at least I died here. Like what advice can you give someone who is trying to navigate this journey or trying to start this journey to, a healthier lifestyle in a sense?
You got to pray. You've got to pray. Prayer has to be at the forefront of your engine. Like I had a really good support system. When I finally started to talk, I didn't realize the blessings that were really around me until I started to bring them closer. Like, cause again, I always felt like being a Leo and being a dude, like I could just handle everything. And I was basically with a weighted bar in my PR doing weighted squats with everything on my back. And it got to the point where it got too much until I started to open up. And prayer, making sure you're around people that really want to see you triumph. Like they want to see you happy. Like your happiness makes them happy. Like they don't want nothing but intangible currency. They want to see you thrive, and making sure that you take, again, as we said, take time, grace, patience, allowance, GPA. Like don't rush yourself. Take each day as it comes. Be patient with yourself. Do not apply too much mental pressure. Every drop of sweat.
We all do that.
Yeah. And even myself to this day, sometimes I still got to catch myself and I have these talks with myself in the mirror and be like, I need to give myself more allowance, because when we give ourselves that allowance, we're able to pay more into us. Right?
Are you where you want to be in terms of like you're now 180?
I keep between 175 and 180.
Are you content now? Like your body feels good? Like you're
100%. 100%. I'm aiming to probably go up to 190. Like I've been, discussing with a few people just in the industry of fitness, and they feel like, 10 more pounds, I could carry it. My biggest thing was growing up, I never could run. So as long as I can maintain my weight and still keep my mobility and my agility, I'm with it. Because my joints, again, they've been through enough with the excess weight. I always have to be mindful of that. And that's why even now I don't squat with the bar. Like I haven't done regular squats or any type of squats. I always have to use either the hack squat machine or just different variations with kettlebells, just different machines. Just
These
because,
are joints.
Yeah, because
so there's long-term effects.
100%, because my tailbone, my knees, my hip, certain things got out of place, and that in itself, lower body pain is pain sometimes. And again, I think sometimes we conform to it based off of conditioning, but at the same time, like I mean, my ligaments and stuff for the most part they've bounced back, but I'm still very cautious, especially with my legs, because I love to run too. So I have to just always make sure I'm in that, not really a comfortable place, but as healthy for my body.
Heard you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want everybody to know that I'm proud of you ahead of time if that's a journey that you're on or thinking about it. Hopefully something that he's saying is...
Don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't give up.
There's rewards, you know, and a lot of these tough moments in life, we really got to push through them. The growth, you got to push through growth. I think a lot of people think that growth feels good. It's like it's a bunch of success moments, and it's really like it's some moments you're just like, I can't... Fuck this. I said it on camera.
No, that's exactly
what I mean?
what it is. Like, there's sunny days, but there's rain too.
Right.
There's sleet, there's snow, there's slush, there's sandstorms. Like, you got to be able to, like, come to terms with embracing and enduring the climate of life.
And in full circle, right? So I met Nick recently, and Nick has become my health guru. Like, he is the one. Everyone's like, you know, I'm personally like, you know, this is like a big episode for me too, because I've been on a health journey. Like, I've been recently in the gym 3 times a week. I have a trainer that's like, you know, holding me accountable. Shout out to Rowan.
Yeah.
And what you've taught me in the last little bit is so important. So, like, you know, see it on your shirt. See it there? Mama's Moss, Toronto brand. He provide, they make all SEAMOSS products. Irish moss is different. It's different. If you're Caribbean especially, that's different. Like, I'm addicted. But even like the SEAMOSS, I use their products every single day, and I put like SEAMOSS in my smoothies. I've now tried to like get my family on it. So just tell them a little bit about like SEAMOSS and the benefits of it.
SEAMOSS, it's a superfood because it contains 92 of the 102 minerals the body needs.
Right.
And no matter who it is, like, once your body's in its right alkaline state, it can produce vitamins, but we all got to ingest minerals. And being a vegan now of 4 years, going on 5, sorry, because we're in 22 now, I'm so mindful of what goes into my body. Because if you think of it, we want to put the best fuel into the body because we'll run at that optimal.
So still bun weed, but no grabber.
100%.
Essentially, there you go.
100%.
That's what I like to hear.
That's a daily thing.
That's what I like
stopped
to
drinking
hear.
in 2017.
He's looking at us like our cameraman's looking at us like.
A lot of people ask me that. They're like, "So, bro, now that you start, no, it's not that. It's just
that's from the earth.
Hey,
Fight me on
it's
it.
a flower. Let's go.
Right.
Right?
But it's that's what he's basically taught me, like like to be alkaline, like essentially like if you're completely alkaline, disease can't exist in something that's alkaline.
Because it goes back to the mucous membrane. So when the mucous membrane is clogged, that's where diseases breed. And the only way is you got to exfoliate, eradicate the mucus. And that's why fasting is such an important thing. Ooh. People ask me all the time, is fasting just because you're vegan, you don't need to lose weight anymore? No, there's a saying, you starve the flesh, you feed your soul. And when you abstain, you gain, right? And having gone through the different levels of the fasting from just raw fruits and vegetables all the way to breatharian, you see a lot more about yourself. You take like an inner scope. You start to feel and see things that you wouldn't. You start to decalcify the third eye. And that's why I always say, like, if you're only seeing out of your 2 physical eyes, you're not seeing complete clarity.
There's more to life, for sure.
Exactly.
So this is a challenge. It's 2022. Like, I think a lot more of us, including myself, I'm saying it here, I'm actually going to, take part in more fasting this year because I think, one of our previous episodes was on 7 months of no sex. That's like the fasting of like the physical, like the lust, like flesh. That does something to people. Like even with, we talk about food. Yeah. Super important. Like, I always admired even like Ramadan and like the, in Islam, and how the principle is just like a reminder that there's people in the world that don't have that. Yeah. So when we're complaining about I'm so hungry and I need extra and like it's a humbling experience actually when you like take away from your body because your body doesn't actually need all that.
100%.
Get away from the gluttonous.
It's interesting you brought up, about the 7 months, like in that way. Again, 7 is my number, as you know. Celibacy is a powerful thing. Yeah. Like, and you know what? A lot, only like the school, like my circle really noticed, but I mean, again, vulnerability is strength. That's something for me. Celibacy has been a personal commitment I made to myself at 14 years old. So at 30 years old, like, again, people like to praise me for a lot of things, but yeah, celibacy, 100%.
Oh, wow.
100%.
Yo. You heard it here first. This is one of those ones you heard
that
it
was-
first. That's
yeah.
big.
Yeah, I appreciate
That's
that.
integral. You are
appreciate it.
whole. You are
I
whole. Don't
appreciate
look at me. Don't look at me. Okay. Don't look at me. My whole pick me on thing.
No,
But you
no
are
judgment. No
yeah,
judgment.
No judgment.
That's just my path, my
Proud of
story. You know.
So discipline. You're just like a walking book of discipline. Not you didn't always have it, but
No,
you
but
worked for it.
grew with it, right? And it came
Love that.
came a time. But you're right. Again, when we abstain, we gain. So when we know what we're putting into the body, we receive it on a different level.
Right.
So going back to the SEAMOSS, like because we carry the capsules as well.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have the capsules with the gel, you're getting your 102 minerals. So your body is getting nourished on a mineral level that it cannot be otherwise.
And I promise you, y'all, I have been taking the CMOS and the capsules, and I get the full 102. And when I first started taking
You're
it,
consistent, 100%.
like I would wake up early to drop Z to daycare, 8 o'clock in the morning. By like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm still like wide awake. Like I just had too much energy,
The
and I was like,
energy
I don't
hit
know where
different.
energy's coming from. Also, I did get sick at first. Just my body was like, I guess, like flushing out all the bad shit and making new, like, you know, way for some new shit. So,
and that's something else that's very important. When you start to fast or you start to just go through a health change, when you get sick or you feel it even has the same common signs of a cold or a flu, those are good signs, because you have to think about it. The body is starting to exfoliate, so it's going to go through stuff. You're not going to feel A1 every day. If you are, that's why some people tell me like, bro, I'm fasting. How you feeling though? And they'll be like, oh, I'm feeling the same. No change. Like, okay, it's cap. Because I know exactly what it's about. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. I rather people just be honest. Mm-hmm. Like you don't get an award for saying that you're not feeling how you're feeling. Just be real with it. Right. You know?
We're doing that all 2022.
Exactly. Intent.
So, and if you ever need any health advice, any like dietary, you know, questions, this is the guy that I've put a lot of people on to like just ask questions, and he's always, you know, been more than, you know, open to your information, your knowledge. You spread the knowledge. It doesn't cost nothing to do that.
Exactly.
It's such a it's really a blessing to also like have you in that corner of health and just keep us accountable too, right? You keep me accountable. So proud of you. Someone out there is watching.
You already know.
180 pounds in 9 months from 360. I'm gonna make sure I put a picture there so people can like see for true. For true, yo.
Because I look at the pictures every day, and I'm grateful. It keeps me in a state of being humble. You know, humility for clothes, and like we talked about before, like the L.T.E frequency. When you listen to your soul, you talk with your heart, you execute with your third eye, you're gonna see a different life.